You are watching America Trends. I'm Mary Burt-Godwin. And you know, one of the most important aspects of filmmaking, aside from the acting and directing and the obvious things like that, is the music. Because you know, really good music, it can make a scary scene scarier. It can make that emotional scene, you know, where you kind of well up. It might take you from that lump in your throat or even an ugly cry, which is what I sometimes do in a good movie. But it all comes down to the music. So I'm so excited to introduce you to our first guest, Lars Hempel, who is a film composer, actually for film and games. And he's zooming in from Germany, I believe. Lars, are you there?
Hi, yeah, thank you very much for having me. Yes, correct. I'm in Germany right now, Germany in Hamburg.
Wow. Well, I'm so excited that you're joining us and to talk with you because I love what you do. I think it's a fascinating industry that you're in, and you married your love of music and your talents in music to making money, because that's a big way to make money in the industry, in the music industry, is to film compose, correct?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Um, I would say as a composer, it might even be the best way to get a constant a money stream, income stream, because the music for film and generally for pictures always wanted. Even through a pandemic, you still want to have some music to picture. So it's a lot of fun to do this job. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I bet it is. Now tell me how you got your start. How did you first get into music, and then how did that transition into specifically film composing?
Yeah, so I actually started as an audio engineer. And during the study, I realized that simply recording other people's music is not really what fulfills me. And I started to think about, okay, I might actually want to write the music myself. But in my mind, composers and film composers were always these wonderkins, these geniuses, and I could never dream of even doing that. So it took a while for me to actually consider writing music for film. And then I just simply, yeah, told myself, you know what, just do it. And I applied and, yeah, got accepted to study film music in the Netherlands. And I did my bachelor degree in the Netherlands. And throughout that time, I started to assist a composer, Anne Dan, in LA, which was amazing for me. I got a lot of experience throughout that time with her, and I'm still actually working for her from time to time. And I then started my master's in London at the Royal College of Music, which I'm to this date I'm still finishing my master degree there.
Wow, what a amazing journey. And you know, do you have to learn an instrument to be able to compose, or you just learn the notes and how it all works together? How do you even start this process? What's the ABCs of this process?
What's the ABCs? Well, how long do you have? No,
We have
I mean,
9 minutes.
9 minutes. Okay, well, that's going to be tough. But honestly, yes, it's definitely good if you can play at least one instrument, preferably the piano, because everything is laid out beautifully for you, and you can kind of see the entire range, almost the entire range of what other instruments are able to play. But I know a lot of composers actually who have the main instrument as the guitar, for example, or the flute. So it is possible, but obviously an instrument would be good to know, yes.
And then now with the digital age, it seems like so much more, you have so much more accessibility and ways you can craft the music through digital platforms, probably. Is that a big part of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. That changed a lot in the past years, especially since composers back in the days, they their job was mainly to really write the music, and then everything else was done by other people who were specialized in that. But nowadays, it's really, as a composer, you have to be very versatile. You have to know how to mix a song. You have to know how to master a song. You have to know how to edit to film. Simply because the time frames in which you have to work are getting shorter and shorter, and the money also is getting shorter and shorter. And there are really just a very few composers who still can afford to simply write the music, and then everything else is done by other people. I imagine really just John Williams would be the only one that comes to mind who can do that actually.
Now, you mentioned mixing and mastering, which I have heard those terms all the time, and I don't know if I really understand what they are exactly. Can you break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, so when we start to compose, we start to simply write some instrument lines and start to arrange, let's say, an orchestra, for example. But then if you want to deliver a final product, that's something where each instrument still has to be processed with professional tools, and the balance between those instruments has to be done right and correctly, so that eventually the audience in a cinema, for example, they can enjoy the music and it doesn't sound too high or too low or too bassy. So that's really something that a composer nowadays has to be able to do.
So you're not hearing too much flute or too much one or the other.
Exactly.
And so my untrained ear, I don't know if I would even ever hear that, but is it something you train yourself to hear, or did you kind of automatically have that gift of being able to hear that?
I don't want to say that I automatically had that gift, but it was something that came quite naturally to me. It wasn't necessarily something that I had to train, but on the other hand, while I developed as a musician, I did a lot of years. I worked in an a cappella group, a cappella comedy group, and having these voices next to you and singing in specific situations between those voices, I think that really gave me the training. But at the same time, it was a lot of fun for me. So I can't say that I necessarily practiced it.
Okay. Now, tell me, when you're composing for a film, what's the process like? Do you write something and then you pitch it to a filmmaker, or is it they show you clips and they show this is the vision of the movie, go make something to make this superhero movie more superhero-ish?
Yeah, that's actually both ways. It comes both ways. So sometimes I see a script that I really love, and I know that I might know the director, for example, and I simply want to tell him, okay, take me as the composer. And when I do that, then it is nice to pitch something, so that I send him music that I've written and tell him why I chose this music for his script, for example. But at the same time, sometimes directors already know your music and want to have you as a composer, and in those cases it's often that there might already be music under the film, which is what we call temporary music. And that really already gives you a feeling of what the vision of the director's music is. And then we simply talk about, okay, for which specific part in the film do we want to have a rather more scary soundtrack than what's in the temp track, and so on. So that does sometimes come after the edit of the film is done. So the composers very often at the end of the production line.
And are there go-to sounds and or chords? I feel like in a movie, I was saying, there's an emotional scene and then all of a sudden I'll hear a certain piano key. And I was like, oh, that got me right there. So are there certain chords, or, to make it really scary, da, 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 there's things are going to elicit an emotion from people, right?
Yes, I mean, there are those typical ones, for example, when you have a horror scene and then you have some specifically strings that play a tremolo chord. They sound very sketchy, but as a film composer and the director also very often wants something very original, and the goal kind of is to not do the typical thing. So I would say that it is something I'm trying to avoid, at least, and the goal is to achieve those specific emotions without doing the very standard and typical arrangements.
Right. That's a hard one, right? Because you could go to something that's going to get people tearing, but you don't want to. So I believe we've been showing clips while you've been talking, and I believe that you had a documentary made on you or the film composing industry, and I believe we have some footage. So maybe
Rough cut of the movie, and you work off of that. So you get the inspiration and the ideas mainly from the picture you see. The composer is usually at the end of the post-production process.
The recording process is always a bit of a struggle. You have to work with a lot of software. In our case, we're working with Cubase as our main composing tool, but you have to be also fluent in other softwares like Logic or Pro Tools, because it depends. If you are working for yourself, you can choose whatever you want. But if you assist, you sometimes have to adapt to the tools the main composer is working with.
wow. This is so cool. Ah, he's gonna get stabbed. Or she's gonna get stabbed. You're watching America Trends, and we are here with Lars Hempel. He's zooming in from Germany. He's a film composer, an award-winning film composer. And I believe, Lars, you did the music behind that scene, correct?
Yes, correct, exactly. Actually, funny enough, this film was done in only 3 weeks, I believe.
Wow.
So that was a power crew that took this film to the finish line.
Wow. Now, so in that, I heard music, and then I also heard sound effects. And was that all you? Did you do all of that?
No, so that is really split. The sound effects and the sound design was done by someone else, and I really just focused on the music.
And in one of the clips we saw in the first segment, I saw some, like you were tapping some sort of instrument. I don't know what it looked like, a bag of rocks, but into a microphone. So what is that, and what's that process that you're making those sounds as part of your music composition?
That's a very interesting question. So I do love to record real instruments as much as I can.
There
Obviously,
it is.
Yes, exactly.
So what is that bag of rocks?
For the video game
It's like a bunch of wooden shells, I would say, wooden shells, and then I simply hit it, and it sounds really rainy and nice.
Okay, cool. And then you're taking spaghetti across the drum.
Yeah, a bunch of spaghetti.
A bunch of spaghetti noodles across the drum. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, you have to be creative in how you're creating your music. I love it. Now tell me about.
Yeah, and it's a. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And it's also a lot of fun. Sometimes recording sounds and instruments not in their typical way they are normally used. So, for example, like you saw right now, that I'm simply scratching the noodles, as you call them, across the drum, which makes a very interesting sound that one would not necessarily relate to a drum, and that's a lot of fun to do that.
And do you ever are you someone that, wakes up in the middle of the night or wakes up in the morning or even in the shower going, oh, I have the best idea of some sound I can create or some music that needs to come out right now, and you go make it right away?
Yeah, I have to be honest. The best ideas for me come on the toilet. I don't know why that is, but yeah.
I'm so glad you said it. That happens to me too. It's the best. You got to have a little notepad right there.
Exactly. No, but it is good to have your iPhone or a phone next to you that can record simply like that. And it happens a lot that I have an idea for a melody and then simply record that into my phone and recall that then once I'm in the studio.
And you have a business partner, correct? So you are Lars Hempel of Hempel and Fermat. Michael Fermat is your business partner, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. And so do you guys live in the same city, or I think I read that you live separately and you work remotely, but you're still partners?
Yes. So he's living in Cologne, and I am hopping back and forth between Hamburg and London. And yeah, we still manage to work really well together because we have our systems set up in a way so that we can easily share sessions and music back and forth. And it's very, very handy to have to be together as two as a partner for a film, because obviously you're double as fast as other composers.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we come from different backgrounds. So my background is more towards the pop music and a cappella music, and his background is more in the rock and metal genre. And you know, when we're able to combine those, it's really something special that comes out of it. And we can also cover a wide range of genres, which is really good.
Tell me about some of the collaborations you've done. Have you worked in Los Angeles as well? And what are some of the films? I know you have some awards under your belt as well.
Yes, so we're very fortunate to have quite a few contacts in Los Angeles. We love to work with SheTV Media, which are two very talented women.
Yeah, we actually had them on the show.
Production company.
We had one of them on the show. Yeah. I love what they're doing. So that's wonderful. You're working with them.
Yes, exactly. So we have an ongoing collaboration with them, and then we are working also not only with directors but also with artists. For example, the artist Kia. She helps us out a lot when it comes to writing specific songs for film. So not the soundtrack, but the songs that might come up in film in the intro or in the outro. So not only soundtrack, but also collaborations with artists in Los Angeles.
That's awesome. And how did it change for you? Did anything change for you during COVID? I mean, because you could be working remotely. I think film productions, though, went on hiatus during COVID. So, but sometimes, or at some point they came back. So how did it affect you?
Funny, it really just affected me in the past half year, I would say, because the music production is pretty much at the end of the production line. So all of the film productions that were done before COVID, they kind of came in while everyone was in quarantine. And I was still able to work. But then towards the end of COVID, that's where, you know, the film music kind of fell into a bit of a dip. And now it's the opposite again. Now all of the production companies kind of want to get their productions out there before there might be another quarantine, who knows. And everything comes at the same time. So right now it's very stressful.
Oh gosh, I bet, you know, and there's just ebbing and flowing of all the industries at the moment. Now, so what is next for Hempel and Fairmont?
We are actually, I'm currently working as an assistant on a horror film, which is very interesting. This is the first one for me. And we are in the making of a very nice documentary series, which will be coming up in the next year, I believe. And we are also in the running up for a major game. So we're
that's right, because you do video games as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a very different way to compose compared to film. And my company partner, Michael Fairmont, that's his main that's his main genre, the game music, and I'm more towards film. And we can perfectly help each other out in those aspects. And it's really a completely different way of composing.
Wow. Now, where can our viewers at home follow you and find out what's next, where they can hear your music?
Yeah, so at our website, www.hempel/-fairmont.com. And they can also find us on Instagram, hempel.fairmont, on YouTube and on Facebook. So pretty much the well-known
all the channels.
Social media. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for taking time with us today. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I'm going to check out your movies and your music. So yes, thank you so much, and I hope you'll come back when one of your next movies comes out. And stick around for more with America Trends. We have Ivy Slater coming up to talk business solutions for successful entrepreneurs. We'll be right back.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you.